I've never seen an organization really take off as quickly as you guys have. What did you guys do that others have not been able to do before? Well, Chad,
Yep.
first off, congratulations on raising $11 million just yesterday. That is phenomenal.
Yes, that's a good day. That's a very good day.
And you told me about that as an example of every day there's something incredible happening with the University of Austin. Like, what else? What are some other examples of things that are happening that you just go, wow, that is amazing?
Well, and we can just take what's happening right now, not to mention the last 3 years, right? So you mentioned the 11 million yesterday. This Sunday, whatever that is, 4 or 5 days from now, we're gonna be featured in a segment on 60 Minutes. Another day at the office, so to speak.
And a positive feature you said, right?
Yes, I'm very confident that it's going to be positive. We'll see. You never underestimate the media's ability to kind of twist things, but I really don't think that's the case here, and we're going to find out. But just even having 60 Minutes on campus, which they came twice, once in early September, where they came and did basically B-roll. They're in the classrooms, the hallways, and that kind of thing. They come back a month later in early October with their correspondent. We had these panel interviews with faculty, with students. It was incredible to be at the university, be on campus, walk around with what's a fully functioning campus. So the students are in class and people are busy doing their work. And then 60 Minutes is set up in our library for 2 days with more cameras than you could count. Literally, I don't know why they need so many damn cameras and lights and all that. And, as we're just walking the hallways, it's like, oh, wow, there's John Wertheim, the correspondent, and interviewing some of our team. And that was just like, well, on the way to get coffee kind of a day. It's almost like that every day. The visitors we have, the VIP visitors, the donors, the media attention, the level of excitement is pretty much, I think, what people, a lot of people hear about it and ask me about it. And I'm like, yeah, it's exactly like that. It's a very high level of energy, visceral. You walk on the campus on any given day and you're going to probably see something interesting. I have a lot of days where I invite donors to come visit, and it's just, again, it's any given day and I'm walking them along and then I'm like, oh my God, that's right. We have this huge event tonight. Last Friday we had this Persian culture event with a world famous Persian musician and a local Persian chef. And I'm like walking my prospect around like the stage and kind of navigating sort of, he's like, what's going on here? And I'm like, yeah, we're doing this Persian event tonight. Really cool. Nobody was doing this. This huge group of folks came in for Houston for that. The next day, which was last Saturday, just again a few days ago, we had a bunch of astronauts in Houston come, and we did this panel of astronauts. So I mean, it's always something.
What's amazing is that this is so different from where things were 3 years ago when you were just getting started and you were just a contractor, not sure if this was actually going to take off,
Yeah,
right?
we were all contractors. There was nothing to be employed with. There was no entity, right? When you start a new entity like this, you have to do it under the auspices of another entity. They're like your sponsor, your fiscal sponsor. So under this fiscal sponsorship with another nonprofit, there was a project to start a university. And within that project, the 5 of us who were starting this, in terms of the leadership team, the founding team, we were contractors just to see if it could get off the ground. So I joined in July of 2021 at the very beginning on day one. So it was like, let's get through the end of the year and see if we still have a project. Of course, we knew by November. So we knew about 4.5 months in that we had a tiger by the tail.
What was it that led you to realize you actually had it 4.5 months in?
It was not subtle because we announced the university on November 8th, 2021. So this is after about 4 months of work of putting together an advisory board and putting together materials and working on the messaging and that kind of thing. And then we very carefully planned this public announcement on November 8th, 2021. Basically was Hano Canales, our president, writing a piece in Barry Weiss's Free Press. It wasn't called the Free Press then; it was called Common Sense or something like that. But same venue. And so it goes out that morning, November 8th, and by within a couple of hours, the attention level was pretty high, higher than we expected. Within 2 days, it felt like it was everywhere at once. I mean, everywhere. Donors, faculty. Just in the first 2 days, we had 3,200 faculty reach out to us unsolicited, asking how to get involved in 48 hours. Not to mention like donors calling us and sort of saying, how do I get involved? People obviously I didn't know because we were already behind the scenes, we were trying to raise money and we were getting a little bit. And all of a sudden now everybody's sort of like, how do I get involved? So it switched on a dime. It switched in a day.
And it's in just 3 years, it's remarkable to see that you've started to matriculate students. You're in the process of getting accredited and things are looking good there.
Right.
And there is just so much momentum behind this. I've never seen an organization really take off as quickly and as significantly as you guys have. And I'm curious, why do you think that is? What did you guys do that others have not been able to do before with this?
Some of it's, it's time, right? It's the right idea at the right place at the right time kind of thing, for sure.
Of course.
So there's always a degree of luck, if you want to call it that. The right idea, of course, is what we call the fearless pursuit of truth, right? That's the university's mission, is the fearless pursuit of truth. That's the right idea because that is the thing that too much of higher education had abandoned. Basically, what all could be its core purpose, and it's cleared out that lane. It's like if the core purpose is an interstate and nobody's on the interstate. Well, shoot, then we can get on the interstate and go really fast if there's nobody else doing that. So that happened right at kind of the height of what you might call the illiberalism within higher education. Some people call it woke. We don't use that term because it's bigger than that. But I really think that was speaking in 2021, and we by chance happened to be announcing in 2021. So the frustrations we had about what's happening in higher ed was on everybody's mind. Everyone. No one was happy with the system. Austin's absolutely the right place. If you don't know, if it doesn't make sense why Austin's the right place, then I'm not sure I can convince you of that other than to come see it for yourself. If you come to Austin, I can't tell you how many times I've had people kind of go, but why Austin? And my answer is like, there's no other place we could have done this with the kind of momentum that you're talking about. We can't do this in Tampa or St. Louis, maybe Nashville or Miami. But honestly, Austin, being in Texas, being a place that is a hub, a dynamic center of ideas, of the arts, of government, it's all there already. So we just kind of got to draft on that. Very, very important. And of course, the right people. The right people is vital. The most important thing is do we have the right people on day one? And we did. Like out the gate, this was the right board, the right leadership. Joe Lonsdale and Barry Weiss and Neil Ferguson, 100% the right people. It's not even like 99%. It's dead right. And then we started building out the advisory board to see people like Jonathan Haidt and Tyler Cowan and Glenn Lowry. And I mean, no one can look at that and say, wow, that's not an amazing group of people who I trust. It's all about trust, right? You have to trust that the people are going to stay true to the mission. You have to trust that they're competent, you can deliver. You have to trust that they kind of have the courage and fortitude to see it through despite the kind of pushback they're going to get. And we had that in space with this group of luminaries that we surrounded ourselves with. And we got lucky, built a good, solid executive team right out the gate. And so it keeps feeling like the wind is at our backs, kind of pushing us forward, honestly. And I kept waiting like for the other shoe to fall. And there were moments where I was like, is the other shoe about to fall? And it didn't.
Well, I appreciate the humility where you're saying it's the right place, the right time, you had the right people, but you also did a lot of things really well and right. And I mean, it's not just that it's the fearless pursuit of truth.
Right.
What we were talking about this morning is that you had a very clear, crisp vision that everyone could buy into.
Right.
And I'd love for you to share that and explain just how direct it is.
In terms of the fearless pursuit of truth?
Well, the vision of launching a new university whose mission is the fearless pursuit of truth that starts matriculating students by 2024.
Yeah,
right?
The vision we had on day one is the same vision that we were focused on and executed on the whole time, which was that we would build a new university committed to the fearless pursuit of truth, and we would matriculate students by fall of 24. That was always what we said. We never backed off of that. That's a very clear vision. Again, I was telling you this morning, like that's a vision where you don't have to explain it at all.
No, it's very simple and direct.
Right. They know what a fall of 24 is. They know what a university is. They have a pretty good idea of what fearless pursuit of truth means. And so we didn't spend a lot of time explaining those things. People showed up already understanding what it is that we were trying to do. And so then we could get immediately to, well, how do we do it? How do we stand shoulder to shoulder with faculty and donors and students and parents to get this done? So then it's all about execution, of course. And execution of anything as a startup guy can be very hard, can be very unpredictable. And I just feel like there were times we got lucky. There were a lot of times where I think we navigated it really well. And so that matters, absolutely. There's always moments where you're like, wow, I'm not sure we're going to get this done. There were definitely moments in the leadership team meeting where there was anxiety about meeting this deadline of fall of 24. And there was conversation about, look, if we could just push it back 1 year, that would allow for A, B, and C and all these things. And Pano, our president, was like, absolutely not. This is the thing we've committed to. This is the thing that we pull our supporters. This is the thing that people want to see. And that's creating momentum and creating excitement. And so everybody's like, okay, we'll get it done. Thank goodness we never backed off of that and we stayed focused. But there's always, again, some degree of luck in terms of the way things kind of pan out.
It's always nerve-wracking, especially since you guys went very big very early on, very visibly so.
Yeah.
And that was part of your strategy from the get-go, right?
Yes. Honestly, I'm not sure how I would be able to raise money otherwise, frankly, at least not for something this audacious. So, just as part of that original vision, part of the strategy was we need to raise $250 million in donations and commitment. So, it's not all cash up front, but we need to raise that sort of that level of money and support so that we have a runway to launch the university. And we never backed off of that either. Right. And so we knew out the gate, like, there's really only one way to raise that kind of money. The universities used to be started by like a single benefactor. So it was just Rockefeller or just, Stanford. For us, it was going to be a diversity of major donors across the country and across the world. So in order to get their attention and be relevant, it's like we had to go big. So immediately, like we're getting some faculty fellows who have some cachet and energy, and they're going out and they're like ambassadors to the world. We started immediately holding major events. We announced the university on November 8th. November 11th, 3 days later, we had our first major event in Austin, which was to a capacity crowd. And one of the ways you do that is one of the ways you kind of make it big is don't do what everybody else is doing. Like everybody would be kind of, let's get the usual suspects in a hotel conference space and talk about what we're going to do and do it in a really scripted sort of way. We did it unscripted in the beautiful private home. We completely decentralized the invitations. I just went around asking, oh, this person's excited. Who do you have? Who can you invite, 10 of your friends? Okay. And you build that excitement. You never want an empty room or even a half empty room. So it's a full room. It's unprompted. It's unscripted. So when Pano goes and he makes his remark, they're pretty unscripted, right? When Neil Ferguson goes and makes his remarks. And so it's real. People can see that it's real. It's exciting. It's energized. So we just kept doing that. I mean, from a fundraising standpoint, we just kept running events in cities across the country. Literally Miami, San Francisco, New York a bunch of times, Dallas, Houston, LA, Denver, and it would work. And now we have sort of communities, if you will, in those spots. And once you get the momentum, the rest of it kind of takes care of itself. It's like spinning the flywheel. So we spun the flywheel.
And now you're off to the races. You've got students who are actually enrolled in the university.
Right.
And they're doing this without even the university being accredited right now. You're still going through that process.
Yes, and we don't have a choice. We have a choice on whether we want to be accredited, which we do. There's a lot of good reasons to be accredited, but the accreditation process requires that you graduate your first class. Graduate. So not only do you have to recruit your class, matriculate them, but you have to graduate them before you can get your final accreditation. That is a huge, huge hurdle. That's the number one hurdle.
That's a huge add for students.
Right. So the huge ask for students and their families. I can tell you, I don't know what it was like, 20, 30 years ago, but these days it's very much a joint decision. The kids and their parents are making these decisions together. And here's what happens, or what we saw happen. Usually the parents would be heard about UATX and got excited about it. Maybe the kids. When the kids got exposed, they were open-minded and they would get excited and they'd visit the campus. And then they'd be like, this is great. This is so awesome. But when push came to shove in terms of submitting an application and finalizing it and saying yes, it was sort of like, it's a new institution. It's not yet accredited. So even people who really get it and really want to be there, is it for their family, for their kid's future? I mean, think about that. We can sort of say that's a lack of courage, but like that's a practical reality. Right? I mean, this is your kids you're talking about. So it's a special kind of family and a special kind of student who's willing to take that risk. I would say most of our kids weren't so much taking the risk, but they were excited about the risk. So meaning for them, that they weren't trying to overcome that hump. If they were trying to overcome the hump, maybe it didn't work out. They were coming in sort of saying, no, I want to be here because it's new. I want to be here to help build it. I want to, and so that helps self-select. So we have a very entrepreneurial, forward-thinking, bright, courageous sort of group of students, because they were filtered through this very difficult sort of set of circumstances.
What are the other qualities you're looking for in students who are going to the university? Courage obviously is one of them here.
Courage is for everyone. Right? Our faculty, our students, everybody has to have that. We're looking for optimism. So we don't want the pessimist. We don't want the nihilist, of course. We don't want the cynic is the worst.
And that really fits into the whole culture of the university, where you talked before about some of the problems with higher education today.
Right.
But you're not just criticizing to tear down. You're criticizing in order to construct something better there and say, here's how it should be.
Exactly. So look, the fact that people have concerns and complaints about the world is totally understandable. The trick is what are you going to do about it? Are you just going to sit there and complain? Are you just going to sit there and talk to each other about it? Are you just going to sit there and talk about how the world's going to hell? Or are you going to do something about it? So we were looking for students whose natural inclination, without even thinking, was, no, what can I go do? How can I help be part of the solution? So there was a lot of that. So they're very forward thinking. I call it forward tilt. meaning like they walk like this, they walk like they're going somewhere.
Ooh.
And I think so they absolutely have that in spades. I would say that, they're patriotic in the sense, not in the sense that it's like in a old 1950s movie kind of patriotism. They feel grateful to be part of the United States at this time, at this place, despite some of the challenges here in the United States in 2024 to go out and make their mark on the world. They look at other parts of the world and kind of go, oh my gosh, good thing I'm here. So there's that sort of element. And what that does, that student body, which is again very similar to the faculty and so on, creates a certain kind of culture. So you don't have to set all these policies and so on to get exactly what you want. You sort of get that expectation, and then the expectations sort of reinforce themselves.